Hello everyone. Hey. Welcome to our second segment of the show. Are you not raring to go for our second part? Are you guys, energy levels has to be up here right now, right? So are we all up there?
Yeah.
Yeah? Have we had a great time so far?
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, my name is Arish, by the way, in case you haven't seen. So my badge is here. So my name is Arish Ishmael. I'm going to be your host for the afternoon. So, our next speaker, a very important topic, I think, that within our community is hardly ever spoken about, and it's on prostate cancer. My main thing of why I was interested in hosting this part is due to awareness. Black males in particularly lack a lot of access to mental health services and mainstream health services. So that goes down to a lot of factors that have prevented that. One of them being stigmas, one of them being lack of information, information that's known amongst us. So, did you know that 1 in 8 people, 1 in 8 men have prostate cancer? 1 in 4 black males are at risk of having a lifetime risk, now I say, of having prostate cancer. So that means out of 4 people, 1 person is, basically. How does that ring true to anyone here? Does anyone know anybody with prostate cancer or have been at risk? Yeah? Yeah, right. So, this is an opportunity, 45 minutes of in-depth information, more pro, on prostate cancer. So hopefully we're able to take this information and pass it on to our loved ones, hopefully, right? So yeah, give it up to prostate cancer, okay?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Ellis, and I'm representing Prostate Cancer UK. As you just heard, unfortunately, I'm an expert in the matter, and that'll reveal itself as we go along. So the format for today, this is what we're going to go over, plus a lot more. But anywhere along the talk, if you've got any questions, need me to clarify something, just stick your hand up, shout out. Just, we'll make it as free-flowing as we can, okay? So we're going to go about, we're going to talk about your prostate. So where is it, what it is, what can go wrong with it, the signs and symptoms, what to look for, knowing your risk, knowing your rights, and taking action. So what do you know about prostate cancer? You know the answer to this one. So how many men in the UK are going to get prostate cancer at some point in their lives? It's 1 in 8. But for black men, it's 1 in 4. So just to leave you with that figure, it's 1 in 4. Around the UK, how many men do you think are diagnosed with prostate cancer? Anyone? Come on, guys, don't leave me hanging up here. 47,000. And 400,000 are living with the effects of prostate cancer. So that's 400,001, unfortunately. So what do you know about your prostate? Can anyone tell me where it is?
I'll be bum.
No. That's one of the examinations is that's how they can feel it, and they'll feel one side of it. Anyone else?
Around the entrance of your bladder.
It's underneath the bladder, so it's directly underneath the bladder. And this is a 3-dimensional drawing because the urethra actually runs through it. And that part's key when I explain a little bit more later. So what's a prostate? It's a gland. It's a gland, think of, if your sperm are Olympic swimmers, the prostate is the pool in the water. Only men have it. And its main job is, as I said, is to make semen. who's got an idea which is the closest size to the prostate?
B.
B? C?
B.
It's actually B, walnut. And if you're not sure the size of a walnut, think of a golf ball. It's about that size. So what can go wrong with it? You can have an enlarged prostate, which is where, as we get older, it grows. And because the urethra runs through it, this is where you may start seeing the symptoms of having problems urinating. And that's the most common problem. It doesn't mean you've got cancer at all, it just means it's enlarged. It's common in men above 50. And as I said, it doesn't mean you have cancer, and it doesn't increase your risk. But that's the most common part. Now, I always get the pronunciation of this wrong, so prostatitis. Hopefully I don't have to mention that again. So this is an inflammation or an infection of the prostate. And it's common in younger to middle-aged men between 30 and 50. Now, a lot of you I can guess between 30s, 35s, so you may not need to worry about it now, but they are detecting prostate cancer in younger people. So when I say younger, I'm saying their 40s. And it's not the same as prostate cancer, thankfully. And then we've got the prostate cancer, which I suppose most of you know is abnormally growing cells. And when this begins to happen, that's when the real problems begin. So these are the changes you might start to look out for. Needing to pee more often during the day, during the night. Difficulty going for a pee, difficulty starting, finishing. A weak flow. Needing to rush to pee. And feeling that you haven't emptied your bladder properly. So, you know, sometimes you may have that feeling where, you know, you're having to squeeze the last little bits out. Dribbling urine. So, what's key about prostate cancer is a lot of the time you don't get these symptoms. And I had none of these symptoms. And all the people that I've met at hospital, they had none of these symptoms either. It's ranged from, one guy was telling me he was helping his daughter move, and he sprained his arm and he sprained his groin, so he thought he'd go to the doctor. And the doctor said the guy's in his 60s, a white guy in his 60s, and the doctor, for whatever reason, did a PSA test, which is what we're going to get onto. And when he called him back in, he wouldn't let him go home. They rushed him straight to hospital, and he had no symptoms whatsoever. As I said, most men with the early stage of it have no symptoms at all, and this is where we have a false sense of security, thinking that we read down his list of symptoms and we think that because we haven't got any, we've got nothing to worry about. So are you at risk? As I said, 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer at some stage in their lives. Unfortunately for black men, the risk is twice that. It's 1 in 4. It mainly affects you over the age of 50, but I know people that have had it in their 40s. Family risk. If your father or your brother has it, that makes you 2.5 times more likely to have it. And you may also be at higher risk if your sister or mother has breast cancer. That's a new fact that I found out just a few days ago, which was quite worrying as well. So we don't know what causes it, and you know, that's something they're still looking for. We don't know why it affects black people more than white people. The only thing they do know is that perhaps if you're overweight or you're obese, then you've got more of a chance of catching it. So if you think you're at risk, or if you know somebody, so with this demographic, it may be that, you know, your fathers, your brothers, your friends, godparents. What you can do is you can speak to the GP to discuss your risk. And your GP can do a few tests. So the main test, which again I'll come on to, is the PSA, which is the blood test. The second test is a physical examination. It's called the digital rectal examination. And that is the finger up the bum. Unfortunately, there isn't a single test. So it may be that if your PSA is higher, as in my case, they then need to do a series of other tests before they determine the final number. So the main test is a urine test, and that's just to rule out an infection. So that's if you see some of the signs, because some of the signs as well, you know, if you have trouble peeing, it could be just a simple urine infection. The PSA test, which stands for the prostate specific antigen test. And this is a blood test. And the thing about this is that if you have to ask for this test in particular. So how I found out about mine was my 50th birthday was coming up, and I just said to myself, you know what? I just want to go for a health check. No symptoms or anything, no histories of diabetes or cholesterol in the family, but you know I eat junk, so I just thought, let me just go and have a check. And so the doctor said, should we do the PSA? And I sat there and I ummed and I ahed and ummed and ahed. I said, yeah, why not? And the key thing is that if you give blood, or you've given blood recently, it doesn't mean they're going to check your PSA. It's a separate test, which they need to put on your notes to say that that's what they want to test for. So a raised PSA shows that you've got a problem with your prostate, but not necessarily prostate cancer. So just a quick discussion on the PSA. So the PSA is this number. It's a point digit. If it's over 3.5, they'll refer you to hospital for further checks. If it's under 3.5, then that's fine. If you do go for a test, it's worth taking a note of that number, because when if you do a test a year or so later, or a couple of years later, you can just see if it's changed. So this is the digital rectal examination, and basically the doctor puts their finger up your bum, and they can feel the end of the prostate. And what they're looking for is abnormalities. So it feels different, it feels rough, and that's how they can tell that there is perhaps something wrong. But the main test is the blood test. So in my case, it was mine was bumpy. So that, along with the raised PSA, led to a series of other tests, which I'll go over in a second. So this is one of the things that I found personally one of the most annoying parts of this. And in doing these conversations, I've come across, there was two guys who said they went to their doctors and they were over 40 and they wanted to have a PSA test. And the doctors did all that they could to dissuade them from having this test. And in the end, they gave up. I gave a talk about 2 months ago, and after that talk, two guys said the same to me, that they went to their doctors and the doctor said, you don't need it, don't worry about it. Sorry, that was the nurse who said that. He insisted he wanted to talk to the doctor. The doctor said exactly the same thing. You don't need it, don't worry about it. Until the point he had to insist to get it done. Now, the reason behind this, and this is what I've been told by Guy's Hospital, is the cost. It's not the cost of the PSA test. The cost of the PSA test is about £20. That's the easy part. It's that if you've got a raised PSA, or there's an abnormality in your prostate from where the doctors felt it, they're liable for the cost of all the other tests. So the other tests are MSI, ultrasound, and a biopsy. And that's why, it's not all, and I don't want to say all surgeries are like that, but that's why some surgeries will not will not refer somebody or make it as difficult as possible. So that's what we've been through, but take action. So what can you do? You can go and see your doctor and ask for a test, or you can ask your, if you're here on behalf of, maybe it's a father, it's a family friend, it's a brother. If they can't, you can just encourage them to have a test. And if they can't do that, or they won't get the test, you can always get Prostate Cancer UK are the only organisation that will give them a test free of charge. So just before I get into my story, are there any questions? Hi, Dave. Yeah.
Have they done any research in Caribbean and West African countries in terms of risk of prostate cancer? Because obviously, because they are black and they have a high risk of it, they should rule it out whether it's ancestral or not.
Yeah. So
it doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. So there is definitely a hereditary trait in this. And I don't know exactly what research is being done, but they just don't know the answer. They don't know why it's affecting us more than anybody else. We do know that by 2030, it's going to be the most common cancer in the UK for all races, all sexes. Sorry, this.
No, it's just if I understood the gentleman's question correctly, is there a difference between, let's say, the Brits, because we've got stats on those, and people in West Africa and the Caribbean direct? So not necessarily between black and white, but in a difference between.
No, not at all.
So you can find the same level, the 1 in 4, over in West Africa and the Caribbean as well?
Yeah.
Okay. That was good. Yeah.
This gentleman.
I'd just like to stress what you said. I would just like to stress what you said, the fact that there are sometimes no symptoms. With me, there wasn't any at all. And only because there's a history of it in my family, and my parents nagged me that I went to a walking clinic, which was one-off. It's only run for a week. So I went in, and it was the PSA count that really showed it. It was 7.4. But now, treatment was called early, and last week I got signed off with my PSA count is 0.2 now, so that's all good.
So the lady there was just first time. Just behind you.
There we go.
My dad at the moment, he's had a PSA of around 5.6, and I was pushing him over the summer to get it checked out properly, and he's very, 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 very reluctant to go forward with more tests, even though it's been recommended. Would you encourage him to get a biopsy done, and how would you kind of approach men who are just not trying to hear anything negative about their health?
One question.
Unfortunately, black men are very hard of hearing.
Yeah.
And if it's not hanging off, if it's not broken, if it's not bleeding profusely, we will not go to the doctors. And I will put my hand up and I'll say I'm one of them. And how I talk to guys is I pretend that I'm down there, because I could be sitting down there, and it doesn't matter what. If we go back 5 years, it doesn't matter what the person was saying up here. I ain't got no symptoms. I can't take the time off work. I can't be asked. Let's face it, doctors make it difficult to make an appointment. Yeah, you got to ring up 8 o'clock in the morning. You've got this 10-minute window that you've got to try and get this call in, or you got to get out of your bed and be there at 6:30, and there's only 10 people in front of you. just to see the doctor. So I get that. But there's a couple of ways I'd look at it. Does he drive?
Yes.
So he spends more effort getting his car MOT done than he would checking out the PSA. Now, one thing I'll say to you is that there's a couple of ways to look at this, and I certainly don't want to. I don't want to scare anybody off, but how I was my prostate cancer was caught early, and the next stage after me is where you lose a lot more, and then the next stage after that you're in a box. It's pretty much as simple as that. Now, what you could say to your dad is that, look, Dad, it doesn't mean that you've got cancer, but we can just look into this, because it's over the threshold, but it's still pretty low. And this is the thing that is a bit tragic, is that if we get tested early enough, and it's just over, it can be slowed down without surgery. It could be any of the other things. It could be just a urine infection. It could be an enlarged prostate. It could be the prostate cyst, whatever it is. It could be that. It's something that you just need to hammer on. I mean, I'm happy to talk to you. My story is, and what brought me here was that I say to people that, you know, I've got three things. I've got a big mouth, I've got a sense of humour, and I've got prostate cancer. And, you know, I've seen the leaflets, and I've gone around them. We were upstairs, and we were having a discussion. We were joking. We were saying it's almost like there's a force field around this table, because you can see the guys. They spot the table, and then they divert. You know. So I get that. So all I can say is you just have to keep on. But also, I'll give you my story as well. So just hold that thought for a second, and I'll hopefully answer it. There was this lady just in front there.
See, you've inspired the different questions of what I was thinking of. So you mentioned that there's a link between breast cancer, someone having women in the family having breast cancer, and there's a man then developing prostate cancer. Have there been any studies that are done into a potential link between those rates of prostate cancer in black men and black women who have fibroids within the family? And I ask that only because clearly there's a disproportionate amount of black men who are dealing with this issue, and there are a disproportionate amount of black women who are dealing with fibroids at the same time. So that's in the UK and the US. I haven't explored kind of African Caribbean just yet. So I'm wondering that, and I'll just say this quickly as well. Do you think that if more black men who other black men respect and admire, if more of them spoke up about, even just about well-being and even going to see a doctor or that kind of thing, do you think that that would help to create a cultural change so that more black men would be more inclined to see a doctor if there was kind of potential health issue?
To answer the first part, I'm not a doctor in any way. I'm an expert by default on this subject. So what I would say is, if you contact them, they're the experts, so they'll know that first part. As for the second part, I can't think of anyone who is going to encourage somebody else to do it. You know, we can look at the celebs and think that, you know, we're going to be influenced by celebs, but really, are we really influenced by celebs? There's a lot of misinformation about prostate cancer, and you know, some guys would rather just not know. I know a guy whose dad has currently got prostate cancer, and he's in his early 30s, and he's got 2 kids, and he will not engage whatsoever. Even though we got to the point where we were nearly arguing about it, and I just stepped away and said, look, you know, it's not my battle. It's something that I just don't understand the reasoning behind it. I can only look at the side of the fence and say, you know, before I was here, for example, if I'd have been visiting here for this centre, I wouldn't be coming down here. I wouldn't be in this seminar myself. I'd be looking for some food somewhere or something. Yeah, I want to hear about prostate cancer. You know, it doesn't affect me. I've looked at the symptoms. It's got nothing to do with me. That's me. So I can only so the perspective that I can come from is I can say, okay, what can I say to me sitting down there, and that's what I try to do. And one of the latest things is I can say to people, well, you know what, you can listen to me or you can end up like me, almost. And I'm lucky. Regardless of what I've been through, I'm lucky. So, you know, I haven't got all the answers. All I know is I can try and talk to people how I talk to me. And I can say it once, I can say it twice, and then I can move away. Because if you're not going to do it, then I can't force anybody to do it. Any other questions? Oh, so that gentleman I know who was making a noise.
Yeah, no thanks. And this might sound like a silly question, but
nothing silly.
Is it possible to have a low PSA level but then still have prostate cancer? Possibly.
And again, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not sure about it. And the reason why I say that is because you can have, I'll give you my own example. I had a test when I was in my early 40s. One of them was a low PSA. Sorry, one of them was a high PSA. I don't know what the figure was. And I was tested again a second time, and it was a low one. So it just cancelled themselves out. And there's certain things that could raise the PSA anyway. If you've had sex the night before, that could affect the reading. So don't fall into a false sense of security. It's like I said, it's the car on your teeth. It's really simple. It's a simple blood test. You can do it every couple of years. So I wouldn't be certainly if you've got some of the symptoms, but your PSA is low, then there's a question there. And again, they're the experts or your doctor.
Outside of yourself, are there any other national campaigns targeting black men specifically about prostate cancer?
Not that I know of. I know that Prostate Cancer UK, they're the biggest organisation, and they've just introduced not quite a department, but they've now identified that they need to talk to black men, and so they're targeting black men more. So I haven't got the details on me, but on the table there, I think it's let me see this on this slide. There was another website. No, right. So there was another website, and that's specifically for black men, and it's on the table upstairs. So just get through the force field and just find out what that address is. I don't want to give you any wrong information.
You highlighted earlier that men outside the black community, in terms of other racial groups, would increase by 2030.
Oh, that's everybody.
Yeah, that's outside the racial group or in the black community. Do they know what actually causes the cancer in itself then, if they can forecast that it will spread to other races or racial groups?
No. This is part of the research. They've got no idea what it is. They've got no idea what causes it, and also why us black people, black men, are more affected than anybody else.
It's kind of a statement as well as a question, which is my brother, he's got prostate cancer, similar situation to you, no symptoms, high PSA level. What's quite interesting is the doctor was trying to get him to go for surgery. And he went to the Macmillan
yeah, cancer, yeah.
Yeah. And they actually presented a number of different options for surgery. So it was kind of one of those things that was interesting, that the doctor was just really trying to force him down the road of surgery, but actually there are other options.
Right. Hold that question, because when I give you my story, I can tell you how I made my own decision based on the choices that I had. Are there any other questions?
I was just gonna.
Sorry.
I was going to say, you know, when you said doctors are reluctant to give people a test.
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Not all of them. But if you have a reluctant doctor, what is your legal? You know, how much crap do you need to take from somebody?
Right. So over 50, you can demand a test. Yeah. If you don't want to go through that hassle, Prostate Cancer UK will give you a test free of charge. Any other questions?
Yeah, apologies if this has already been answered, but you mentioned that it's more common in young men from about 30 upwards. Would you still...
No, later. 40s upwards.
40s upwards. Would you still encourage younger men, let's say in their 20s, 30s, just to get a checkup anyway, or is that something that they shouldn't really be worrying about at this stage?
If you've got no symptoms, just keep healthy. It's only when it's as you get older, I'd say 40s. So what Guy's Hospital said to me was that they are seeing younger and younger guys. By that they mean 40s. Any other questions? Sorry.
So cancer, cause of cancer, I think you mentioned obesity. Are you aware of whether or not stress levels in a person can then affect the chances of them developing any form of cancer, whether it's prostate cancer or not?
Again, I haven't heard of that at all.
Okay.
Again, you know. I can only. What I don't want to do is give you some medical information that I've got no.
It's just that I was thinking about just the fact that black men, they deal with stresses that other groups don't. So stresses to do with racism and just other cultural pressures and stresses. So if there is a link, that's also an area that could then provide whether it's prevention or some form of healing.
It's a very good point.
So I've got some reasons.
So I run a food company, and a lot of my customers come from when they start to take on a healthier diet. And I started looking into this with some research of the course a few weeks ago. And in Germany, and I don't know if I'm aware of this, there's a bread that contains a high level of rye. So conversely, whilst black men have a high incidence, German men have very low incidence, and they are saying now that this to do with this rye bread, an ingredient they have in their diet. So in terms of preventative things, that might be something for younger men in particular to introduce into a diet. It's that dark brown rye that you get in things like Ribena crackers, pumpernickel bread, and that is something that apparently, you know, is a health thing, just like vitamin C being a garlic cold, it's just something like that. So if you're looking at preventing if you're young, it's not when you've got the symptoms you start, it's before you get the symptoms and you're preventing
good point. Can I give you my story, because it may answer some questions as well. So when I was 7 years old, my dad said to me, he was going on holiday and he'd see me in 2 weeks' time. 35 years later, he got in touch again. And so I went to go and see him. And when I went to go and see him, he was in the position I am in now. So he'd already had the operation and he was wearing a pad, but he didn't say anything. And I know he was wearing a pad because when he took his jacket off, I could see the top of the pad or nappy. And, you know, big 70-year-old man, I'm not going to ask him his business, I just thought he was just incontinent as you get older and whatever. And didn't say a word. So fast forward, did a health check, and the PSA came back high. Some of this I cannot make up. How the PSA came back high was, it takes 2 weeks to get the results back. So on the Friday when the results should have come back, I got a text message from Guy's Hospital, from the oncology department. And it said, your appointment has been booked for, I think it was the 23rd of May. So I didn't even know what oncology was. And I'm just thinking, well, why has this message come to me? I haven't asked for any appointment. And so when I looked up oncology is the study, the prevention, the treatment of cancer. So, bearing in mind, no one's spoken to me yet. I ring the surgery and I say, has someone made an appointment for me at Guy's Hospital? Oh, yeah, we do that automatically. Okay, why? Oh, the doctor's going to speak to you. But he's in a meeting at the moment. So I called back again 2 hours later and I said, I'm not a nervous person. But this is a bit like you saying, you know, I've got a hospital appointment, but the undertaker just happens to be in the area. Can he come round and get some measurements? And so 2 hours later he calls back, and he went through the whole thing about the PSA. It's not a definitive number. You know, don't worry about it too much. But you know, we refer you to hospital. So I went to the hospital, and so I had the examination, the rectal examination, and the doctor detected an abnormality. So that triggered off an ultrasound test, a MSI test, a urine test, and yeah, those are the tests. So remember I said that 3.5 is the threshold. So my count from the doctors was 6.5. So by the time I've gone through all the tests now, it had jumped to 11.5. So in a couple of weeks, it jumped from 6.5 to 11.5. So that cancer was, they class that cancer as fast moving. There's aggressive, but that's just fast moving. So the day after my birthday, in a doctor's surgery, and he said, and I just thought it was going to be in a large prostate. He said, how was your weekend? I said, yeah, good. How was yours? I said, yeah, it was good. And he said, well, you know why you're here today, because we've got all the results back. And it's not good news. You've got prostate cancer. And it's fast moving. So here are your options. You can have the radical surgery, and radical surgery, what's the word I'm looking for?
Scalpel?
No. Sorry, I've mind blank. The problems that you could have with having a radical surgery are impotence and incontinence permanently. If you have the other option, which is the radiotherapy and hormone treatment, the side effects, that's the word I'm looking for, side effects. The side effects are, you could grow breast tissue, you're going to lose definition, you may, and I kid you not, I actually said this, you may experience mood swings and burst into tears for no reason. Hot flushes, I didn't even know what a hot flush was. But the key thing, and this is answering your question, the key thing was, if that doesn't work, I might not be able to have it out afterwards, because it does a lot of damage to the prostate. So as far as I saw it, I was almost reading it as I'm signing my own death warrant. So I had the surgery. Surgery went brilliantly. The prostate, it's got the prostate, either side of the prostate you've got nerves. And the nerves are what control the guy's hydraulics. So when you have the prostate out, you want to keep the nerves. Depending on how long you've left it and how beat up the prostate is, they might not be able to save the nerves. If you've got no nerves, you won't have any natural hydraulics. I was lucky in the sense that I had both of my nerves saved. However, I came out of hospital totally incontinent and totally impotent and infertile. Fast forward where I am today. I am about maybe 20% incontinent. It's called stress incontinence, which means I can walk around, no problem at all. If I lift up my son, I might leak a little bit. If I run for a bus, I'm going to leak. If I cough loudly, I may leak. This gets better because of the pelvic floor muscle. Inside the prostate as well, there's a valve. So when they take that out, instead of having 2 valves as a normal guy, you've got just 1 valve. So guys, if you can imagine, if you go to the toilet and you're doing a pee and there's a bear behind you and you just stop it and you run out, I can't do that. That muscle that just cuts it, I don't have that. So you have to develop the pelvic floor muscle. It's totally different. That takes time. The impotence will come back in whenever it's ready. I've got absolutely no say over that. It's something that it's part of life, and it will just get better. So, what brought me here today with Prostate Cancer UK was because I just wanted to just say, if I've got the opportunity to talk to guys and say, look, you don't want this. I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, but I'm lucky. Because like I said, I've come across other guys and, you know, they've got cancers to deal with, or they're dead. It's as simple as that. So, and I've also written a blog, because when I was trying to research this information, you can find lots of technical information about it, but nothing about the personal effect of it. What happens? You know, when you leave hospital and you've got a catheter in, what's that about? So, I've got a blog. If you're interested, it's called I Am the One in Free, and it's the word free.blog. And it's an absolutely true account of prostate cancer and the journey. It's funny, it's frank, and it's what I couldn't find, so that's why I wrote it. And that's what brought me to Cancer UK, because we don't talk about this. Black men, we don't talk about this. We'll let somebody else talk about it, we'll pretend it's not us, but it is affecting us. And if it's not affecting you guys out here now, it may be your uncle, your brother, your dad, your friends, your godfather. So if I can save, so my take on it was, if I can just save one person from what I've had to go through and what I'm going through, then I'll do it. And the blog, if it doesn't applicable to you, give it to somebody that it may be, because somebody that's going through it, it tells them what to expect. Because a lot of the things, it tells you, well, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, but it doesn't tell you, well, what's the effect? What does it actually do? And so that's my journey. Thank you. So just before I get booted off, were there any questions out of what I've just said? It's how long is a piece of string. So 6 weeks after the examination, you have another PSA test. And you want that PSA test to come back at 0.03, which is termed undetectable, cancer-free. I got that on the 31st of August. However, I'm still going through the other stuff.
In answer to that gentleman there, I had a treatment called brachytherapy. I don't know if you've heard of that. Brachytherapy, where they insert radioactive seeds into the prostate, and that eventually kills.
Oh, that's part of radiotherapy.
Yeah, but it was the only. There is side effects now. If I have to have it removed, there will be complications. But it was interesting after having that. When I went through security at airports, all the alarms went off. It was quite amazing.
Yeah, and so like I said, I had the choice, and I took the surgery.
Yeah.
Anyone else, just before we get booted off?
I thought I just might answer one of the questions that you had. You can have a low prostate, PSA, sorry, and have prostate cancer. So when you do go to your clinician, if they say they won't examine you anyway, they're not doing it odd or weird, then it is because it's kind of a combination of information and
If you've got any fears, any suspicions, any queries, just go to your doctor. That's what they're there for. And this is what we don't do. Thank you.
Very poignant message. How insightful.